And now you've been through this 30 days of amazing, arduous journey of reforming, improving yourself. What are the consequences of this? How does it go beyond Ramadan? What are the real tangible outcomes of Ramadan and virtues that we gain from fasting? One of them is humility. The other was contentment and spirituality. Okay? Let me begin with humility. The word khushu' is used in the Quran, and also tawadu' in the books of hadith. It uses the word tawadu' for that. Interesting word, very important concept really. But many people think, humility is not about thinking less of yourself, but it's about thinking less about yourself. So you don't regard yourself less than others, okay, in worthiness. We're all worthy creatures of Allah. But we don't become narcissistic, individualistic, self-centered. That's what we mean, okay? That is what humility is all about, okay? Not to say, I am the center of the world. And sadly, this is the biggest, West is kufr. It's kufr that shines, okay? It's a dark light, all right? If there can be a dark light, an oxymoron. It is actually, in many ways, it has those evil characteristics. Its industrial revolution has destroyed the planet, okay? And its researchers and its understanding of humanity is also doing exactly the same, ruining the human spirit, okay? It is actually a kufr. And this is why, when it talks about the Dajjal, the Prophet ﷺ says, it will be written all over him. What does that mean? Simple. You don't have to check, you don't have to ask them. You will see the kufr of their every field they reach, every field, whether he's a sportsman, whether he's a singer, whether he's an artist, whether he's an actor, you will see kufr, that dark shining will come everywhere. Because, and same thing in the educational system is happening. And it's been happening for last 40, 50 years intentionally, which is to, for example, get rid of modesty from people, okay? And from nursery onwards, how they teach, how the education philosophers work on this, 30, 40 years before, they planned this. This is how we're going to get rid of modesty, sharam, for example. And on tawazu, of course, they've been working on for nearly 4 or 5 decades to remove this. So today we have a new generation of, in every field, who are completely individualistic, self-centered, narcissistic, khabis. We have khubasa around us, seriously, from politicians to leaders of all kind. But it's important to understand this evil we are facing and the nature of kufr and the nature of challenge we have before us. So, there is this real sense now that, you don't show humility, okay? So what is humility? All right, you'll ask. Humility means to be humble and conscious of one's own failings and shortcomings. It also has the notion of being simple and unpretentious and having no expectations of praise from other people for one's good works. Okay? So you don't show off, you don't display, you don't say, look at my appearance. And of course, modern society is all about appearances, isn't it? It's about displays, how you look, okay? There is no sense of spirituality or morality in it, okay? And that is the challenge, we have in front of us. The Prophet ﷺ was a beautiful example of humility. Despite his most lofty station in the divine scheme of things, what was he? Sayyidul Mursaleen, Imamul Anbiya, Habibullah, okay? The darling and the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidul Awwaleen wal Akhirin, Imam of those who went before and those who will come forever. That is him. But he's displayed humility. He was given the choice of being a prophet king or a prophet servant. You want to be a prophet who is king like Sulaiman alayhi salam? And Rasulullah said, no, I'd like to be Abdullah. So the Quran actually calls him Abduhu, not just Abdullah, no, his servant. The angel Israfil said to him, God has been very generous to you because of your humility. You are the master of the children of Adam. On the day of judgment, you will be the first who will rise from the earth, and you will intercede for them. And that is the maqam mahmood the Prophet will have, the highest station anybody could have. In poetic praise, Maulana Ahmad Raza Khan wrote, "Blessed be his unpretentious style and easygoing, yet encouraging smile. He did not hesitate to carry out menial jobs and domestic chores like cleaning up, milking the goats, patching worn clothes. He happily rode a donkey. He would invite children to sit behind him. He visited the sick and the poor. He would sit anywhere in gathering and mix with the companions." Now, these are all examples of what humility is. And when the Muslims conquered Mecca without a fight, the Prophet ﷺ entered the city in the most humble manner. What was that humble manner? What was that humility with which he entered Mecca, the city that had expelled him 10 years earlier? Today he returns with 14,000 troops, which the Arabs had never seen. How does he enter? With pride, head up? No. With flags flying around? No. You know, the hadith says that he was sitting on his she-camel with his head bowed in humility, so much so that his head touched the saddle many times. When someone called out to him, "O best of creation," he just replied, "That is Ibrahim." And so what's that to do with Ramzan Sharif there? No? Humility, eh? Well, you know, Ramzan Sharif is a month that made us weak physically, and that is the beginning of, you know, feeling slightly lower, okay? And it brings you down. It actually sort of humbles you. You know, hunger, thirst, tiredness, all sort of makes you feel, okay, I'm not that mighty, okay? It's only when your stomach is full and that wonderful, exotic, delicious food that we're having actually 2 or 3 times a day nowadays, sadly. When you have that, yes, that actually does go into your head, all right? No doubt about it. You know, it does have, the meat, of course, has what are known as growth hormones in it and other kinds of hormone, which does actually make you crazy, all right? And so, you know, by going through that process of almost hunger, you know, it does lower you and it really brings you down in many ways. So there is humility there. It leads to spirituality. And this is where I think the idea of humility, you've got to understand, how does it lead to spirituality? Well, we're all the same. But what am I in relation to Allah? I am nothing. That is where the humbleness comes. So humility is really where you regard yourself, you know, that is the mighty Lord. He's the giver. I am the taker. I am totally and utterly dependent on this Lord. Okay? That is true meaning of humility, and that's where the spirituality comes in. And the final word I wanted to share with you was qana'at, which means being content, satisfied. How are you satisfied? Well, you say, رَضِيتُ بِاللَّهِ رَبًّا وَبِالْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا وَبِمُحَمَّدٍ نَبِيًّا وَبِالْقُرْآنِ كِتَابًا. I'm satisfied, I'm happy with Allah as my Lord, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as my master, and with the Quran as my manual, as my way of life, okay? And Islam as my religion. I'm content with that. That is the contentment. You know, this Ramzan has charged your battery now. Let us keep that going. Let's use that power and energy that you have now gained. Now use that energy. It's no good keeping it because it will dissipate, you know, if you don't use it properly. So let's inshallah make proper use of this and let us feel close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us feel humble before Him and let us feel content with what Allah has blessed us with.